got to ask from Jen and Kerryn, if you're ready. And if there are, you can actually put questions on chat in the meantime. And probably, yeah, we could get started with this one. So Jen, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Yes, thanks,
Yeah.
Mayuri.
So
on the hot seat here.
Okay, awesome. So just also want to acknowledge the other project partners here. So Helena Charles from the Gordon was the project manager who drove the project at the time, and Yasmin Chalmers and Kerryn joined the second stage of the project and the last part of the phase 1. The other organizations involved were Skilling the Bay, Geelong Tech School, Geelong Manufacturing Council, and City of Greater Geelong, in addition to the Gordon TAFE. So all of their support was very crucial, and we had the maximum support from them to conduct the study in the best possible way. So I really want to acknowledge their contribution to the project. So from Jen, it's a bit of a tricky question. I hope I'm not putting you in trouble. So when we think of this whole story of clean economy transition, I think the voice of manufacturers say that they already know that there's a skill gap. There's more skills needed for clean economic transition than we currently have. We already have a set of people who are very passionate and who are very who want to make a difference, make a contribution, make an impact. So question is, how do we convince them that manufacturing is a great place that they can make this difference? And how do we attract them to the manufacturing industry to make that difference? Any thoughts or insights?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask everybody else, I think. But it is true that we have, and can you hear me okay? Yes? Yep.
Yes.
It is true that we already have a skills gap in manufacturing as far as advancing manufacturing. So bringing manufacturing into a sort of 21st century digitized, high value, globally relevant, technically sort of advanced sort of realm is a challenge, and gap, and building those skills is continuing today. It's been a subject that has preoccupied a lot of people for probably over a decade, to make sure we're globally competitive in the advanced manufacturing sector. And I would probably argue that a lot of the skills for the clean economy are those skills that are needed for an advanced manufacturing sector. So the things you delineated earlier, just those skills and jobs that have been identified. So communicating that to our parents and the workforce of the future, to the parents of that workforce and those students, is the biggest challenge we've got, because you hear endlessly that manufacturing is declining, and what is not the case, it isn't dead, that's for sure. It's still, as you showed us, Mayuri, represents a really large portion of the economy. I think you said 20%, where we look at it in dollar terms, it's $9 billion of regional GDP. So manufacturing is a big part of this region, and it's a major significant contributor to the Australian economy. So it's an important area. And not only that, it's more important to make sure it grows. Like that's where our challenge is, to grow manufacturing. So to come back to that clean economy question, communicating what the opportunities are in manufacturing is our biggest challenge, and making sure we attract talent to the sector. So what I guess the Geelong Manufacturing Council and other organisations are doing is identifying the skills, which is why we're participating in this study that you've done, and helping to not only identify those skills, but help to fill them. So we've been running several programs to help students understand what the opportunities are in manufacturing. We take them around to look at inside factories, and we educate the parents about the opportunities so that they're not trying to discourage them from working in manufacturing, and inspiring them with the range of jobs that are available that can make a difference and can change our sector for the better. So I don't know if it answers that question, but we do what we can. And as Kerryn can say, we're working on a graduate program as well. So we're kind of getting the future workforce educated, and at the same time, those people that are already working in manufacturing are they're challenged because they're time poor. And I think you pointed out some of the other challenges there that making big investments to transition to a clean economy takes conviction right across the organisation, because they have to get a return on that investment, and they've got to be convinced that it will pay off, and also, is not just a sort of tick in a box. It's actually really producing results for environmental benefit. And I probably would say, to sort of preempt another question you might ask, is it, what are some of the barriers to companies taking up some of those cleaner solutions? And not only that bit about what we've discussed about that, investment piece and convincing the whole organisation that it's worth doing, but also trusting that the network, a lot of our manufacturers depend on energy, and reliable energy and affordable energy, and the network sort of being transitioning is a really big challenge for them, because if some of the particularly small and medium-sized enterprises in this region work in fabrication, steel or metal forges, and they would basically have issues around, if they lose power for an extended period of time, which has happened in eastern metropolitan Melbourne, I think, over summer. They've got malted sort of metal issues. It would put them out of business, basically. So they're putting in, backup diesel generators and all sorts of things to mitigate against those potential risks. So there are a lot of things to think about. And I don't know if I've answered your question, Mayuri, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I have a question for Kerryn as well, and then after that I see Adriana putting her hand up. Shall I go ahead, Kerryn?
Thank you.
Awesome. So if you think of the study, it kind of talks about a whole lot of things to be done, like not just one. It's some are more priority, like redefining some of the roles, but then there are skill overlays or integrations or collaborative skills and different types of funds. So if you think of the current TAFE sector, particularly about Gordon's, would you mind sharing with us what are some of the positive things that are already happening? So we kind of create a picture of what needs to be done as a, this is a standard that we want to achieve, but what is being currently done towards positive sort of change in this area, and what are some of the challenges that you come across, if you could share with us?
Yeah, thank you, Mayuri. I think there's quite a few numerous opportunities. We're not starting from scratch. We do have the opportunity to integrate within a very good existing curriculum. And so it's just finding those ways, and, as I'm talking to more program managers and and educators, finding the ways within the existing curriculum to either educate our students or our teachers on ways to be able to understand the clean economy and the application to that course material. Working with industry is really important, and one way that we're doing that, as you mentioned earlier, is at the moment we're implementing a clean economy team challenge, which is a pilot program that will that is taken 16 students, both from university as well as TAFE, and from cross-disciplinary departments. And so they are studying a range of different courses across the TAFE and university, and they have been split into 3 teams, and they are working directly with an industry host organisation on a clean economy challenge that they have. So it's a real world challenge that the organisation has in transitioning to the clean economy, and the students get to work one-on-one with that organisation over a 6-week period to develop a solution. They've also been given a 3-week intro period where when we were designing this program, we got some really interesting feedback that a lot of the students either predominantly did not know that they could work in the clean economy and didn't quite understand how their role could or their discipline could be part of the clean economy, and B, that they thought they would have to travel to Melbourne to get a job. So part of this 3-week preparation period was to say, look, here's the clean economy. This is how you can be part of it. This is how important it is to transition. And this is how, this is examples of what's happening in our region. So you can be part of this right here in Geelong. And so to attract that workforce and engage that workforce, giving them the early networks, giving them the early challenge around what are some of the problems and what are some of the transition challenges being encountered by industry will give them hopefully a really good lift in the workforce to be able to go out and say, hey, I've already done a really interesting project with an organisation on transitioning to the clean economy, and now I can help you. And so I think that's a really interesting way of engaging and attracting workforce into the clean economy. The other thing that's of utmost importance, especially in the TAFE sector, is for teachers to understand the clean economy. And so we're working with our partners such as Jen to engage them in events that are already occurring either online or in person, to get the teachers opportunities to participate in industry insights. And so attending circular economy events locally, site tours and so forth, so that they can be part of understanding what's happening in their region, and then obviously being able to engage their students when they get back into the classroom. I might share one interesting example of how this actually really works in practice, is that we did a site tour recently with students and teachers together of the Manu Futures site out at Deakin University. And one of the businesses that was giving us a briefing asked if there were any questions. A couple of students put their hand up, but one student in particular showed incredible interest and gave a very engaged question to the manager. And at the end of that briefing, he got tapped on the shoulder as we were leaving and said, can you please send me your resume? So, that's just an opportunity that wouldn't have happened if those students weren't putting their hand up, weren't engaged, and weren't able to access what's happening in their region. And so hopefully that, that cascade can start now that he's been tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Kerryn. I can see Adriana putting your hand up. Would you mind asking the question or commenting, Adriana?
Yes, thanks, Mayuri. But before I do, can you please just go back a few slides? There is a slide where you showed how all the components that you covered in your study. Can you just go back to that slide, please? Because my question really centers on that, on all the.
This one?
No, it was all the different areas that you covered. I think it was quite early in your presentation. Please keep going back because you covered. Oh, sorry. No.
This one, probably.
No, keep. You had where it said energy and circular economy, and you had a listing of all the
Skills.
That was the 3 principles
Tile
of the
6.
clean economy.
Tile 6, Mayuri.
Anyway, my question is, perhaps if you forward me the presentation, I'll look through it. But my question really centers in is that you've really covered a lot of ground here, and perhaps it's not a criticism, it's just an observation, and perhaps there's been quite a lot, and I'm wondering about right, okay, so yeah, so here is well, some of it, so renewable energy, you had hydrogen, you had a list where you included hydrogen, and you got now circular economy, and then climate mitigation, adaptation. So you've really covered a lot of ground. And what I'm not getting a sense of is that how you will drill down into all these little components. So, for example, because obviously it's an area where I work in, a circular economy. Hold on a moment. I'm sorry. Oh, just five minutes. 5 minutes. Sorry. 5 minutes.
I think, Adriana, we need all of these 3 principles in order to drive the circular economy. This is a framework that the Victorian government has provided to drive workforce development in particular. So it's not to say that there shouldn't be specific projects in each of these areas, but in regards to workforce development, we need capacity building across all 3 of these principles.
Okay, yeah, right. I get that. So I mean, circular economy, we want circular economy businesses to be powered by clean energy. So these are our aspirations for those of us who work in this area. These are our aspirations. But the reality is that often the application of these aspirations is very, very different. So, for example, hydrogen, I'm not sure how much investment is going into hydrogen in Victoria or in Geelong or in the area that you worked in, the geographical area that you worked in. But a lot of the skills for hydrogen, if you've been trained in the petrochemical industry, they're transferable to hydrogen. So there's a lot of transferable skills. But what I'm not getting a sense of, the circular economy is very broad. So you're focusing on the regeneration of resources, but I'm not getting a sense of the details of how you're going to achieve your goals with such a broad scope. And it would be really great to have a follow-up presentation where you perhaps hone in on one of these pillars. Anyone, pick anyone. I'd be quite happy to listen to any one of these pillars and hear about how you're going to work with the manufacturers specifically on particular areas within one of these pillars. So it's not really a question, it's a request that to have a follow-up where you provide us with, your audience, me, I'm not sure about other people who are listening in, with more information about your intention for this transition. Yeah. Because going into a manufacturing company and saying, oh, we've got this framework, that could be quite overwhelming for a company. manufacturer. But if you chose a particular manufacturer and your assessment showed that one of these pillars or one area within one of these pillars gives them better opportunity to take that on board, have a better chance of success. So that's what I'm asking. I'm not, it's a very big thing that you've got here, and I'd really like a small thing, a follow-up on a small thing that said, hey, like climate mitigation adaptation. How is a manufacturer going to fit into Australia's NDCs, nationally determined contributions? How does that work in the bigger picture?
There's lots of opportunities, Adriana, to drill down within this. Yes, and we hope that this is a precipitous to further work and further workforce development. But at this stage, this is a preliminary training needs analysis for quite a specific region of Victoria. So yeah, I do hear your point.
Thank you. Thanks, Kerryn. A quick comment, Adriana, because I see Sean putting hand up and want to give him the opportunity to ask questions. So there were some things that are different for these three. So I understand what you're telling. There's a much more granulated level of strategy formation or solution thinking is necessary if you actually want to make a difference. And I totally agree. So if you think of this study, if you even compare these three pillars, there are some things that are common, some things that are totally different. For example, for clean energy, there's a heavy infrastructure-related developments that needs to happen. For things like circular economy and climate mitigation, with the existing way of rather than sort of infrastructure, there's a more like processes, distribution systems, quite a few things that can change in the existing system. So to get to this level of details, we kind of need probably a sectoral level of analysis, like an industry sector like food, and even in food, say restaurants. So to have a bit more ground level sort of implementation, that is what we need. But we are right now operating at a few levels up because this is a study informing vocational sector and tertiary sector in general. So for them to think of what type of teachers do we need, what type of programs do we need, what type of professional development programs that we need. So this is kind of generalizing as much as possible for them to do some high-level strategy formulation so that the structural changes are understood when you kind of go for more granulated level changes. So that's my short answer. I probably give Sean the chance to answer ask the question because we are almost getting to time. Sean, do you want to go ahead?
Awesome. Thanks, Mayuri. And thank you for a great presentation. We got funding from the Clean Economy Workforce Development Fund in 21. Sorry, it's Sean Turk from Green Collect, to develop a accredited module for circular economy. So Green Collect sort of works as a reverse manufacturer in a way. We do a number of disassembly work for products recovered mostly in the service sector, i.e. office chairs, tables, etc. And the accredited module looked at two types of skills. So the first one was circular economy in practice, which were those softer transferable skills that I saw a lot of in the presentation. But as we started to develop the content, it fell more to what we called transformative resource recovery skills. So these were skills such as how do you sort and assess an item? How do you make an assessment whether it can be repaired or refurbished? How do you then actually do that repair or refurbish? Or if it can't be, how do you tear down things to recover commodities at highest value? So two things. One is just a sort of question in terms of the manufacturing cohort that went through the study. Did you see that sort of division between skills, like that high level thinking skills or softer skills, and then those hard sort of tangible on the tools skills? And then second piece is we are carrying on with that work to develop an accredited course. It's going to VRQA for accreditation, I think, next month. So it's an invitation for anyone who would like to find out more about that or be a part of the process to advance that. However, it may be, it needs to go into the TAFE system, it needs to be adopted, it needs to then fit into various skill sets or courses. So an invitation to be involved in that process as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Can I take the question? Can I answer the question, Jen and Kerryn? So it's because it's about the study. So the yes, we did see the soft and hard skills. And one of the things that we have to note about this study is because we got the manufacturer's voice, and a lot of them had their boundary limited to the point that they sell things. So there was no sort of, I mean, it's not a place where you have extended manufacturer responsibility for downstream supply chain. So some of these elements that you spoke about, Sean, on how to dismantle, how to basically triage an item. If you kind of know this can be dismantled, the coil goes to here, the cover goes to here, like that. So that sort of downstream repurposing, recovery, reuse, remanufacturing, designing for disassembly sort of knowledge, I think we kind of did not grasp that here much, because the manufacturers tend to think that the boundary of responsibility ends from the point of transaction. But the upstream part, we got very detailed data. For example, companies handling control systems for controlling their processes. They talked in detail about the information that they need, the skills that they need, and to avoid rework in the process, to avoid industrial waste in the process. So we kind of got a lot of the upstream sort of part of the circular economy covered here in detail. But the downstream portion, I think, unless we prompted and asked questions specifically to get an idea of their sense and how they see it, there were some things that were not covered in this one. So it's great that you're doing that piece of work. I think I probably I answered the question. Awesome. So we've come to the end of the presentation. I have 2 slides to share at the end to talk about our next webinars and things. I'll quickly go through them and then let you go, and also a feedback survey. So we are currently sort of the upcoming webinars. This is the 4th one we conducted. We had 3 on transition planning, sustainable procurement, and procurement for innovation. We have also some courses that are being developed and running. So we have the next one for councils on developing transition roadmaps towards a circular economy, a 4-hour course online. And then transition planning, once again, preparing roadmaps. It's a 12-hour course, and then a circular procurement course running once again for public sector in June. So you can actually get this information through our education webpage. We would love to hear what you thought about the webinar and possible ways of improving. So if you could take a minute to take the feedback survey and pass on some feedback to us, we would really appreciate that. And thank you for your participation and also lots of engagement. You have been a wonderful audience. Thank you, Kerryn and Jen, and also Adriana and Sean for asking some valuable questions. So with that, I would like to conclude. If you could, I'm staying on if you want to further ask questions. And thank you so much, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Mayuri. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye. David and Adriana, do you have anything to ask?
No, I don't have anything to ask. But thank you for asking me.
Okay, no worries. Great to see you in the webinar. And thanks for the question too. Awesome. All righty. We'll then say goodbye to you and catch up later. Thank you so much.